Welcome to the 2021 Girl Up Leadership Summit Tour in Sub-Saharan Africa. We are so excited to kick off our first ever Global Leadership Summit Tour. We are taking the time to visit 6 regions over 6 days, all ahead of the Global Summit, to hear from young leaders, activists, and changemakers making a difference in their communities. This is day 4. And we're talking about advocacy for adolescent sexual and reproductive health and how we can create safe spaces to combat period poverty. I hope you enjoy the conversation, and don't forget to tune in to the Global Summit on July 13th and 14th, where we're bringing together leaders like you to be a force for social good around the world. When girls rise, we all rise.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Sub-Saharan Africa Tour Leadership Summit. My name is Renee Essel, and I'm a Girl Up Teen Advisor from Ghana.
Leader for Ethiopia. The Sub-Saharan Africa Leadership Summit Tour is part of a series of global leadership happening July 13 to 14. Make sure to register if you have not registered.
To start our summit, we are joined by UNFPA South Africa Country Representative and incoming UNFPA ESA Deputy Regional Director, Beatrice Mutali, who will share with us her thoughts on advocacy around adolescent sexual reproductive health and the UN's work to address the needs of the youth.
It is my honor to address the Sub-Saharan Africa leg of the Girls Up Leadership Summit Tour. Let me start by commending all the young changemakers who unanimously advocate for gender equality and sexual and reproductive health. For UNFPA, the UN Agency for Sexual and Reproductive Health, ensuring that every young person's potential is fulfilled is fundamental to our mission. And we work to deliver this mission together with young people. We acknowledge your agency, we acknowledge your capacity and your creativity. Moving on to the status of adolescent sexual and reproductive health in Africa, I'd like to say the following. African youth face several challenges, especially regarding their sexual and reproductive health. Adolescent girls account for at least 25% of the new HIV infections. The unmet need for family planning amongst young people remains high, evidenced by 1 in 10 adolescents who give birth before the age of 20. 1 in 3 girls are married by the age of 18, and 1 in 6 young women experiences gender-based violence. With the pandemic, these existing inequalities have further increased. School closures have meant that many adolescent girls were suddenly placed in remote learning or had no learning at all. Comprehensive sexuality education has also been challenging in remote areas. Also for adolescent girls, being away from school has meant more pressure from family for an early marriage. Some may never return to school as they fell victim to unintended pregnancies, female genital mutilation, and child marriage. In Malawi, for example, data indicates an increase of 11% in teenage pregnancies. The health-seeking behavior has also changed as the lockdowns and fear of contracting COVID-19 contributed to a decrease in seeking and accessing reproductive health services. This has represented a challenge for adolescents, especially those who need continuity of care for HIV and other critical SRH services. The pandemic has also exacerbated the pre-existing poor menstrual health for girls. 1 in 10 girls misses school due to period poverty, the lack of products or facilities to menstruate in a healthy, safe, and dignified manner. So what can we do about that? We know that menstrual health is not only a human right, but a key factor to the health and well-being. So I'd like to share 3 key steps that we can collectively take up to end period poverty in Africa. The first step is to normalize menstruation as a natural biological process. Girls and boys must receive comprehensive sexuality education that covers menstrual health and prepares girls to manage their period safely, confidently, and without the burden of societal stigma. Secondly, Menstrual health should be integrated in sexual and reproductive health policies and programs so that resources are leveraged, interventions are covered, and financing is sustainable. This will allow for more knowledge around menstruation as well as availability of menstrual products. And as we talk of availability of menstrual products, we also need to focus on affordability of strategies. For example, by removing taxes on menstrual products, as has been done by a number of African countries, and where possible, ensuring the provision of free menstrual pads in schools. Finally, we need to maintain the multi-sectoral movement and momentum in ending period poverty in Africa. And as we do that, an issue that we need to consider is how young leaders can be change makers in addressing period poverty. As I said in the beginning, we work for and with young people. In this spirit, I would invite you to join the Africa Coalition on Menstrual Health and contribute to the realization of the renewed call to action. Each one of you has the power to make menstrual health a reality in the continent. We must continue advocating for the continuity of sexual and reproductive health services, including menstrual health management, as an integral part of the COVID-19 response. So go out there, learn, speak up, follow through, and keep duty bearers accountable while ensuring that your work feeds back into your constituencies to amplify reach and create a critical mass of young people willing to sustain our concerted efforts in advancing the SRHR agenda in the continent. As a collective, you have the opportunity, you have the tools, the partnerships, the platforms to act as change agents. With your leadership, commitments, and innovation, we can ensure that universal sexual and reproductive health becomes a reality for all by 2030. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Beatrice Mutuali. That was a very insightful, and I'm always amazed by the efforts and the works of UNFPA in promoting the rights of girls and the youth.
Me too. We now move to our fireside chat with Betha Chulu from Zambia and Jamila Mayanja from Uganda. Enjoy.
Thank you very much to the MC for this opportunity. My name, as said, is Betha Chulu. I'm from Zambia. I'm an adolescent health activist. I'm very passionate about sexual reproductive health and rights, the fight against child marriages, teenage pregnancies, and sexual and gender-based violence among young people. So I'm so excited today in our fireside chat on the 2021 Girl Up Leadership Summit Tour. We are throwing it all the way to Uganda. And from Uganda, we have Jamila Mayanja, who is the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of Smart Girls Uganda, which trains young people in governance, leadership, and employability skills. So I won't say much. I will allow Jamila to introduce herself. Jamila, over to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Betha. Thank you for having me.
Could you tell us a bit about yourself?
You said it, I'm Jamila Mayanja again, founder and team leader of Smart Girls Foundation, a social enterprise that empowers girls and women. I'm very, very, very passionate about girls and women empowerment. I do a lot of things in Smart Girls. I innovate around sexual and reproductive health, like the bags you see behind there. One of my innovation called the Smart Bag for Girls that helps keep girls in school during their messes and even light them to be able to read their books when they're at home if they don't have power. So it's a solar smart bag. And then also it helps us to create employment for young women who are survivors of gender-based violence, who are teenage mothers. So trying to create a cycle of empowered girls and women. I'm really that passionate young lady. I call myself young, though I'm a bit old-ish.
Oh yes, we are always young at heart. Jamila, I would like to find out
Thank you.
something as well. I know that you're also a founder of a J Mobile Laundry service. Would you tell us a bit about that?
So I started the laundry service. I'm very something that I do under my Smart Girls is training young girls in male-dominated skill sets. It's one of our programs that we call the Girls with Tools. So we train the young, like mostly survivors of gender-based violence, vulnerable young women, to really get them working. So we train them in non-traditional skill sets that are not ideally for girls in our country. That is mechanics, welding, carpentry, electricity installation. So I don't like really just training young people just and leaving them there. So I started the J Mobile Laundry service as a complement for the girls I train in mechanics to try and give them also a source of income and complement their skill sets. Because even when after I had released them after the training, when they go in the field to do the skills they've learned, they're still stigmatized. So now what I do is also make sure I train, incubate their businesses and link them to work. And virtually when they go out to do their own workshops, they're confident enough to fully embody the skill sets they've learned from us.
Wow, that's quite interesting. It sounds like a really massive venture to challenge gender stereotypes, teaching girls skill sets that are believed to be for boys. I think it's about time that we shift and change the narrative and make sure that things go in equality terms, So Jamila, how did you develop an interest in sexual and reproductive health? Where did this whole come from? How was the dream of Smart Girls Uganda born? Just what really pushed you to be an advocate for sexual and reproductive health and rights?
It mostly comes from my history. When I wouldn't say that I come from a very broke background, but I come from a very conservative family. Being Muslims, with a father who had 3 wives. I was raised by not my real mom, but my amazing stepmother. But still, at that time when I was young, I was bullied so much because I started my periods when I was really young, around the age of 8. And because there's a lot of stigma in Uganda around menstrual health, hygiene, around sexual reproductive health, I didn't get to talk about my messes with my mother. So it's the house help at that time who gave me toilet paper to use. And when I go to school, I didn't know I had to change the toilet paper. I stained my dress. So I became a song in school for that girl who stained her dress. So I grew my breasts really early, like I blossomed really early, so I was bullied so much. And when I reached my secondary school, I went to an all-girls school. It felt like a safe space. Here there were all types of girls who were even bigger than me, older than me, girls. And so I would wake up every day, learn about my body, learn about who I am, I literally taught myself everything. And I got to the community, I noticed there were girls who were even going through worse situations than I was. So I decided, even from high school, why shouldn't I make myself, since I had solved my own problems when it came to sexual reproductive health, I wanted to be another shoulder to lean on for other girls. I started an AIDS club in school. I was an A-level counselor. It's with that background that even when I finished my campus, I decided to even keep on doing the work that I was doing in secondary school, because I helped so many of my peers when I was in school. So it really came from my background, the bullying I went through in primary school, so that I do not have to see any other girl go through what I went through, and to help those more young girls who are going through worse in my community.
Wow. That's quite a very touching story. And thank you so much, Jamila, for sharing your personal story. It is not an easy thing to maneuver through the stigma that girls face surrounding menstrual health in Africa, because even just the discussion on menstrual health in many places, it's still a taboo. So you've had to do so much to help your peers as you were growing up, to empower them, to also help them fight through the stigma. What has been your challenge working with girls in sexual and reproductive health and rights programs? What really made you feel like, okay, this is a huge stumbling block that we're stepping on in sexual and reproductive health in terms of working with the fellow girls?
Still the biggest has been breaking the gender norms, breaking that stigma, breaking the cultural norms around sexual reproductive health. It takes time to change behavior, and it has been the most difficult thing. When it comes to sexual reproductive health, you have to involve every party, not only the girls, the young person, but also their guardians, the community, the government at large. So it has to be 1+1 to try and change behavior around, let's say, menstrual health rights, around gender-based violence. So it's really hard to break culture norms, and it takes a lot of patience. Sometimes when you're trying to solve something, you want it to happen immediately, but that's not the case with culture norms. It really takes time because you're trying to change people's thinking, people's behavior. It has been one of my biggest blocks, but I learned on how to involve every party and to be patient with the process and keep on being consistent with the message, with the programs, and with the dream.
Nice. That's really inspiring. I love it that you have had to be consistent in your endeavors. So would you share with us some of your success stories, some stories that you really spearheaded and you took part in, or you led and you really felt and it sunk in deep in your heart that this was a satisfying moment and it was success achieved and you had that sense of fulfillment?
One of the biggest was the first ever father-daughter dance I organized in Uganda. Here it's like a taboo for fathers and daughters to actually get up and dance with each other. But I organized it with an aim to try and break that stigma. But really, I noticed here young girls or women in marriages are who they are, and even them accepting to go through gender-based violence is after how they saw their fathers treat their mothers, and also how the relationship they had with their fathers. So I was trying to use this event to try and create conversations, create harmony, break that stigma, and build that friendship between a normal Ugandan girl and their father. And in return for that event, I was also fundraising for reusable pads. That was a huge success. Like, it was amazing. Everybody till now are talking about that event, how it changed their relationship with their fathers, and even the results of help that what we got from buying reusable pads. And that fact even led to the production of our innovation, the smart bags that are behind me. So that event alone has created ripple effects that I'm still using up to now. It has been so amazing for me. I'm still humbled that to now I still meet a girl who attended an event, the father-daughter dance in 2013, and she's still like in amazement that event alone changed her life with her father. That event alone took her out of a situation of gender-based violence. So yeah, like, it's something I'm still rallying on. And of course, it also led to my fellowship going to Yale at Dartmouth University, and my standing ovation from President Barack Obama. That has also taken me heights because people got to notice the work that I do and appreciate it. Yeah, it was amazing.
Oh, wow. You know what, Jamila, I'm applying for mentorship programs because I would really love to see the father-daughter dance in Zambia as well. That was a great initiative. It was a great initiative. So speaking of how you have taken these ventures to engage girls and break the gender norms, what really do you feel like girls in Africa can do to be part of a bigger conversation on sexual and reproductive health and rights? How can they get themselves there? How can they be part of this bigger picture that we want to achieve?
Is power. Knowledge is power. They need to learn before they implement. if you get to a platform to try and advocate for something that you do not know about, it won't make sense. You won't get people rallied next to you. Yeah, understand the ecosystem, understand the audience that you're working with. Let it be within your country or even internationally, or like wherever you are, you understand the audience. Who do you want to target? And but most importantly, segment that audience. When you're trying to do a message, an advocacy message in a particular something, let it be menstrual hygiene, gender-based violence, having access to sexual health and reproductive systems. To re-emphasize better, what I was saying is that for girls to be involved in advocacy, they need to they need to learn, they need to increase their knowledge on the topic, they need to network. Young people think that networking is all about only business, but even in the work we do with advocacy, your networks matter. The people that you know will take your message further and will advocate even much further for your message. And also, most importantly, for them to be creative around the programs they develop, because it's creativity that is noticed, that in making this message different creates more impact and makes it more unique. But mostly to also utilize their peers and of course, human-centered design. Design a particular advocacy message or program while involving the beneficiaries. It's very important to get feedback. It's very important not to think for someone, but to think with them. So think with them, work with them, to make sure we all make this a huge campaign to solve all the problems around sexual reproductive health for young people. Thank you, Betha.
That's a very powerful response and well thought out response. Let's not think for someone, but let's think with them. That's one of my takeaway messages for today, Jamila. So in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, how has work been for you? Have you stopped your activities, or how has it been like?
No, we've not stopped because COVID has actually made things worse. COVID has made every problem that we are trying to solve 100 times more worse, which is sad to say. So we've been able to just reform, replan, put out new ways on how to make sure we do our work. For example, with a smart bag, we are innovating to add a learning tablet on the bag so that we can food deliver and also have them delivered door to door to the young girls that need them. Even when they are home in the lockdown, they can still read and keep up to their performance. And still, we are doing online trainings for young girls to learn how to make their reusable pads. And even the pads that we are adding on the bags, there's already information on how to make their pads so that they can get out of menstrual poverty. We are using a lot of online, but also foot soldiers to make sure our work is done and is working. For mobilizing for funds, we are doing a lot of local fundraising and turning all our programs into a social enterprise to make sure a person who's privileged is helping another person. With every bag that we sell, we make another and we give out for free. With every business that girls does, for the girls with tools, helps us equip another one for free who can't afford it. And all of these are embedded in or every sexual reproductive advocacy. So really trying to develop a model that is not absolutely donor dependent, that is a hybrid, and also making sure we are quite innovative to reach as many people as we can reach, even when a lockdown happens.
That's interesting. You know, time has never been a friend to man, Jamila. So we're running out of time. I really wish we could go on and on. So in closing, what would be your last words to young people in Africa? And also maybe if you could tell us which social media platforms you use for the purposes of networking, you can pick it from there.
Well, I can tell young people, never lose hope. Never ever lose hope. We'll end this fight someday or sometime. Let's work together to make sure we have every young person access their sexual reproductive health rights. Let them have accessibility to everything they need. I always say sex is a choice, but something like menstrual health, hygiene, menses is a natural state. So the way we make condoms fully accessible is that we should make sure every young girl has access to reusable pads. Information on social media about politics is fully accessible. So should the rights of young girls when it comes to sexual reproductive systems. So work together so that we can achieve together. Yeah. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. For my personal pages, they're Jamila Mayanja, both on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For Smart Girls, Facebook is Smart Girls Foundation Uganda, Instagram is Smart Girls UG, and Twitter is Smart Girls UG.
Thank you so much, Jamila. You are such a very useful and youthful woman that Africa has, and we are definitely going to emulate your work and see to it that we all work together to achieve a common good. So
Thank you,
now,
it was a pleasure.
Thank you. From the fireside chats with Jamila, we are going to throw it back to the Master of Ceremony. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Berta and Jamila. That was very wonderful and inspiring. I love how she used the experience and realized that the need to be the one to change the narratives on girls. So being able to free enough to dance with their fathers.
I think I already have an idea on my next Gala project or even campaign.
Go girl. We now move to an expert discussion. Feel free to submit your questions on the Q&A panel section option under the panel. So we will gladly answer the questions. We are passing to the discussion. Over to you, Balik.
Hello guys, good afternoon from Nigeria. My name is Baliki Salaudin. I'm the president for Gallup Nigeria. I'm super excited because it's 2021 Leadership Summit and we're here in Africa to commemorate that. So today I'm gonna be joined by amazing people. Like, I'm super excited. I have Claire Ejimba. She's a country manager for Cotton on Foundation in Uganda. And I have Tadwanshi Baraka, is a young woman who is passionate about girls and women. I would like them to introduce themselves very briefly. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Bali.
Hi, Baraka. Hi, can you unmute? You're muted. Okay.
Okay, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you, everyone.
Yeah, everyone is excited about this. So this is gonna be very interesting, and I expect that our listeners are gonna have a lot of questions for us, so they can chop them in while I ask you guys this question. So I would like to start with Baraka very quickly. You know, you're a young woman who is passionate about girls and women and ensuring that they understand, you know, sexual reproductive health and their rights. What are the challenges that, you know, you can point out and say you're faced during doing what you're passionate about?
That's a really interesting question. I think the first challenge is the personal dilemma. The question that I ask myself, am I doing the right thing? Am I reaching out to every woman? Am I being considerate? Am I being inclusive? Working with women is not as simple as it might look, because women are complex. They come in diverse spectrums. So it's sometimes you would not want to live them. So looking at the personal dilemma being the first, I think, challenge that I'd mention. The second one is probably participation of adolescent girls and young women. The caregiving work burden usually befalls women. So you realize that participation levels, involvement levels, engagement levels, women and girls tend not to participate as much as they should be, because they have an extra lot of responsibilities that they should have, and that they should also provide for their families. The third challenges are around issues of literacy. The community that I'm based in, it's a mining and agro-based community. So you realize most of the girls drop out of school at really early ages to get involved in mining and related work, and also they become key populations. Also noting that it's also an agriculture. They get involved in agro-based various different jobs that come up there. you'd realize because they lack a lot of literacy levels and understanding, they're not so well educated and well informed. Therefore, the grasp of certain importance of how important sexual reproductive health is for them becomes an issue. They don't find it as a necessity. They're not well informed around the issues of protecting themselves during sexual encounters, health-seeking behavior, probably conversing around safer sex with their partners. And when they do get pregnant, backyard abortion, they don't really understand the challenges and the effects that come with it. So I'll say those are some of the challenges that we usually face when working with girls.
Yeah, I'm talking about sex, getting married, and all. I'd like to move quickly to Claire. Thank you so much, Baraka. So, Claire, according to you, stay in Uganda, and I did a research very briefly last week, and according to the research, there was a report from the Ministry of Education in Uganda in 2019 that stated that nearly 1 in every 4 Ugandan girls between ages of 12 to 18 would drop out of school once they begin menstruating. That is so scary for anybody to read online and so discouraging. For those who do attend schools, you know, girls' absence rates triple from 7% to 28% during their periods. What can you say about these statistics? Because personally, when I read it, I had to read the full article. It was so scary.
Well, this is unfortunately true. It's actually happening in Uganda, and there are a number of issues that are related to it or that make these statistics happen. And I'll start with possibly the hugest being the period poverty. Like mostly girls cannot afford menstrual products, and so do their parents. So in that confusion, they definitely choose to either stay away from school for the days they are menstruating, or eventually when, you know, the situation gets out of hand, they drop out of school. But then also in Uganda, we have so many culture misbeliefs, and I'll relate them to the period myths and taboos. For example, if a girl is unlucky to be born in a family or in a community that believes that the moment the girl begins her menstruation, she is ready for marriage. Trust me, we still have parents who begin preparing their girls for marriage, whether they are 12 or even 9. You know, recently girls are so healthy and begin that period at a really young age. So these beliefs make these statistics happen. We still have a belief that girls are untidy and unhygienic. I had a father who said he cannot eat food prepared by his menstruating wife or daughter, because with this saying, I cannot touch food that has been touched by hands that touch blood. So you understand that kind of misconception. And then there are so many beliefs here, like menstruating girls cannot go to some worship places because they're not clean. So this shame that is brought by the culture misbeliefs and a secrecy that comes with it keeps so many girls out of school. And then our school setting, like the schools have not really been prepared for MHM. Starting with the school administrators, the teachers themselves. So you will still find male teachers, even female teachers, unfortunately, who scorn girls, for example, sports. So this is like a push to the boys to do the laughing. So poor girl will decide to stay at home. And if they do not have supportive parents, which is very common in, I will not even say that the rural areas only, and some parts of the urban areas, they will stay at home. And then I know of a community here in Uganda where girls, it is believed that when you are in your period, you go and sit in sand, and then the sand absorbs your blood. So you can imagine if I'm a 5-day person and I have to go and sit under hot sunshine in sand every day for 5 days, I am missing school meanwhile. So I'll eventually drop out. It's really sad, but it's happening, and because poverty is at a rise. But then also these issues of the menstrual pain, and I'll also relate this to ignorance, because girls are not really prepared for their first period, especially by their parents. Like you heard Jamila say that she was supported by the household. Now this is common in so many households here. Like the parents do not speak out, so girls never know about periods until they see the first blood stain. So this really, yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, I like where you're heading to, talking about family, talking about parents. As a mother of one, whose responsibility is it to educate child on sexual reproductive health? Is it the guardian, parent, or family, extended family, or is it the responsibility of the school teachers? Or the community as a whole, whose responsibility is it exactly?
So it's everyone's responsibility, irrespective of being the mother, the father, the auntie, the neighbor, the teacher. It is everybody's responsibility. But I'll try to put emphasis on the parents. One of the trends I'm seeing now is that parents tend to leave all their responsibility to teachers. Starting from kindergarten, you'll see the teacher is responsible for teaching the child toilet manners. So you can imagine they will expect the teacher to also teach their girl about sex. And then we also have this belief in our churches, especially, that we're not supposed to talk about sex. So, but this would be my call to parents, that we are the primary role models for our children. Much as it's everyone's responsibility, let us take the first step. Let us initiate these talks. Otherwise, the neighbor may not tell your girl child about SRH the same way you would have wanted to tell her. So,
yeah, very true. Yeah, I would also like to advise parents, guardian generally, that it is our responsibility, core responsibility, to ensure that our children get this education from us first, before they go out there in the public, so that they'll be free to come back to you and say, this is the challenge I'm facing about sex, about menstruation, and what have you. So thank you very much, Claire. I'm going to come back to you, but let me quickly jump to Barakai. So I know you've done a lot of activities and advocacy over the years. Can you say there has been some level of change, amongst girls and women's understanding their rights and sexual reproductive health in your community?
Thank you so much for that question. Before I respond, I just realized that I'd also forgot to mention one of the challenges. I think everyone who works in the civil society would relate with. The biggest challenge is funding. We lack a lot of funding.
It's a big challenge. I was wondering why you didn't actually mention funding, because so I thought, you're rich, you have all the funding and so forth. Yeah.
So funding has always been a greatest challenge. So looking also with the positive work that we've been doing, there's a lot of change that comes in within the community, be it political change, that is the changing of laws, enactment of acts, enactment of commission of inquiries, enactment of, for example, the Gender Commission in Zimbabwe, formation of youth board, like the Zimbabwe Youth Board in Zimbabwe. So those are good positive changes that come. So there are different changes as well, from an individual level to a community level, to a district, to national. So looking at the understanding of girls and young women within the communities, there's the social behavior change. And that is the attitude, the behavior, the personality of an individual. If a person probably was not using condoms, after doing a lot of community dialogues and education, you'd realize that a lot of girls are now taking condoms. They're now interested in knowing how to use them. They're actually inquiring that, can we have more female condoms? Because I think the readily accessible condom are usually the male condoms. So that kind of a behavior change is very progressive, and it's good feedback to us, to the work that we do, to say we're getting this kind of feedback back to our donors and to our supporters. So that's kind of the behavior change, social behavior change that is happening with our girls. So we're also looking at when you're looking at quantifying that change, you're looking at reduced teenage pregnancies, reduced STIs, increased behavior, health-seeking behavior from our girls and our adolescent girls as well. And then one of the most, I think, progressive change that happens is when a person is now able to say, with the information that I now have, I'm able to share it to the next person and empower the next person. That, I think, is the ultimate goal for anyone who works within the civil society, to empower a girl so much that she has this rush and this energy to say, with this information, I should be able to share it with someone else. I should share it with my friends. I should share it with my family. I should educate my daughter. I should educate my niece. I should educate my nephew. Which also brings me about to what Claire was recently talking about with regards to whose responsibility is. So change within the community also influences issues around responsibility taking around issues of SRI, HRI in the community. It's the responsibilities of the parents, being the guidance as well, and whoever is responsible for the children, to have comprehensive sexuality education with the child, especially the boy child as well. You realize the boy child is constantly now being neglected. And because we're constantly accusing them of being the perpetrators when they grow older and victimizing them as well, we tend to realize that we now need to get hold of them at a very young age, the same way we are doing the girls, to ensure that both of them are getting the same information, they're getting the same messaging, they're getting the same education, so that they'll also be responsible, respectful male adults. They'll stand up against abuse. They will know that this is wrong. They'll speak up against us, and they'll be our allies and they'll support us. Looking at the community.
Okay, yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, looking at the community, realize that it's also the responsibility of us in the different spaces, be it recreational facilities. You should ensure that the youth facilitators are able to talk to the adolescents, boys or girls. Be it church, we need to have youth leaders who are able to relate and talk to them. Be it different spaces that they engage. As parents, also being a parent, I realized that we tend not to really care much when our child leaves the house. Who are they going to be? If they just say, I'm going out with my friend. We never bother asking, where do you spend your time at? What are you going to be doing? We don't follow up. So there's no need for us to constantly monitor and see the spaces that are there. And then us as development practitioners, we get in those spaces. If they're spending the time at the gaming rooms where they play probably PS4, PS6, we bring a youth facilitator who actually knows also how to play the PS5. And then they have those conversations. If it's in the saloons, let's educate the hairdressers around issues of SRHR, so that when they're plaiting your hair, you have that conversation within a safe space as well, and share as much as we can.
Yeah,
so
I was going to ask you, that what are the procedures that you take in carrying out your activities? And I like the way you've been able to analyze how you guys map out, and then you ensure that either one or two resource person knows, when you're going to a salon, one or two of them can make air. So it makes the conversation, more in-depth, and people are able to connect with it, very quickly. Like, okay, yeah, at least he can play video games and he's telling us this. Okay, let's listen to him, sort of. And I think it's a very, very brilliant idea. I like that strategy. I would like to quickly go to Claire. Thank you very much, Baraka. I'm still coming back to you. So stay around, don't go anywhere. So Claire, you stated in your bio that you would like to be remembered as a feminist. That's a huge word, because a lot of people don't understand the concept of feminism. And when I saw that you would like to be remembered as a feminist whose words and actions have created a positive and visible change in the life of girl child in your community, could you please share with us, myself and the large audience, some of the great work you've done, and the ones you're currently doing, and the ones you plan to do in Uganda? Thank you.
Wow, you've made my bio sound too strong. Yeah, but I will relate this to my work with the Cotton Foundation, because I've developed all this love with my work here. So I would say relating with education, because I look so much at educating the girl child, and by 2020 we had over 5,000 girls enrolled in our 20 supported schools, and to me that's a huge success, because these are rural community schools. So seeing these many girls enrolled is a good start to ensuring they have the knowledge they need. And over the years, we've ensured girls of menstruating age, both menstruating age and coming close to the age, are supported with menstrual kits, including reusable sanitary pads, knickers, buckets, name it. But to make it really make meaning, so we ensure all the schools have the necessary wash infrastructure. And by this, I mean girls' washrooms, hand washing stations, both at the washrooms, but also accessible water supplies nearby to ensure that they are comfortable at school. And the next stage for us is to ensure girls are trained in making reusable sanitary pads. So I'd love to see this happen. But it is a process. So we work with the AfriPads, which is a really good company, and then also training girls in soap making. You may think this is easy, but you know, reusable pads require washing, and girls cannot afford soap as well at home. Yeah, and we've made sure, of course, me being at St. Ovitis, we have wash clubs in all schools, and these are student-led, student-managed, and they include both boys and girls, because like Tadwanasha said, we don't want to leave the boys behind. They may become the men that we want to support our girls. So we need to get them on board. So these clubs are mainly handling health education led by students with teacher patrons, and they talk about menstrual health management as well. We train these students to ensure that they pass on the right message to their fellow children, but to the communities as well, because we want the parents to really support any programs that are school-led. But then talking about trainings, we have trained senior men and women teachers in school, because like I said earlier, somehow the school system does not really support, does not enable the teachers understand their roles and responsibilities in handling menstrual health management. So when we come on board and train the senior men and women teachers to support the children, they are in better position to try to fight these taboos and myths that move around. But then also ensure that they pass on this message still to the parents as well. This is quite important. They are at the ground level of all the development of MHM in the children and schools. And then recently now in this COVID era, when we are in and out of lockdown, we realize our touch and our communication with children is very limited. But we have decided to create what we call student engagement groups in communities. And in these groups, we have both girls and boys, with teachers and community members as elders to support them. And basically, they have what we call well-being booklets, and they talk about education, growth and development, and menstrual health management. This is at the center of, and in it, we have the sexual reproductive health bit. So we've ensured to beef it up. We've trained health workers, village health team members who are the community leaders, and a group of students and teachers on adolescent sexual reproductive health and rights. So we want to see how we pass on this message, how we help both girls and boys remain afloat in this developing era. And this has helped us actually. Just last year, we had a number of teenage pregnancies coming up in our supported students, unfortunately. But 12 of them, when lockdown was lifted, returned to school. Unfortunately, we are under lockdown again. But this is this gives us hope. They have their babies, but they are back in school. So bringing back 12 girls to school is quite a big number. And I'd love to relate it to the many trainings that we keep on holding and trying to make them understand they're not ashamed, because, you know, it comes with stigma, it comes with, yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, and then finally, we were really starting to develop our gala clubs in our 3 supported secondary schools. Yeah, so the student engagement groups are really helping us to still lift up the gala clubs. They are not as active as they could be because of the restrictions, movement restrictions. Yeah, but it's an exciting journey.
Yeah, thank you so much, Claire, for sharing. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying tuned. We're still on, we're not done. I just want to run through some questions in our chat box. So someone is asking if the session is going to be live. So yes, the session is being recorded right now and will be made available on our YouTube page at Gallup. And also you can use the link that you used to join this event to get back to the video whenever you want. You can make reference to it. So how does Girl Up integrate male champions in the fight for SHR and right to tap into available opportunity? Is it only girls? So it is not only girls, it is just Girl Up, but then, you know, we can't just do only girls. So most of the time, even when we do activities, I know that when we launched She Leads Climate Action under Gallup in Nigeria here, you know, a lot of people were like, okay, what about the guys? What about the guys? No, everybody is involved. You know, we've had a lot of male facilitator in that project, you know, and that's like, let you know that everybody we're working together. And you will be amazed that most of our speakers this year for the Leadership Summit, we have quite a number of male gender, like, so that's to let you know that we're integrating everybody. So it's not just about girls, you too can be a part of Gallup. So there is a question for Brakai that how did you find funding opportunities for your project? Very short.
Okay. Firstly, it's not easy. That's the truth. It was very hard and exhausting. But what I did was work on the existing networks and contacts I had. Because for me personally, I started volunteering at a really young age, around 16, 17 years old. So I had a whole lot of lifetime interactions with different individuals and different organizations. That was one. Two, zero budgets, do zero-based budget activities. We have a lot of activities that we do, cleanup campaigns, we do health and wellness Zumba sessions, where actually it has become a resource mobilization activity where people actually pay up to be part of our Zumba classes. We do door-to-door conversations, but the most effective one has been being part of collaborations, being part of consortiums, being part of networks. This way, you get more recognition, you get more prestige, and you learn as you go, because it's not easy starting up and doing it on your own. It's a struggle. So you need supporting pillars and supporting structures. Yeah. And when you're looking for funding, the last one.
We're running out of time.
When you're looking for funding, don't just be focused on just one area. Try to diversify the activities that you do and incorporate a lot of other sectors as well.
Thank you so much, Barakai. So I need to get this question answered before we leave. So someone asked that, why is sex a taboo subject in Black communities? Claire, this question I would like you to answer in a very, like in a 1 minute sentence. Why is sex a taboo subject in most Black communities?
Well, I related to what I understood growing up, that sex is a sin. That alone makes it a taboo. Like, if I were to put it in my local language, you call it a sin. We would actually say triple sinning when people are having sex. So that alone makes it a taboo. Like, it's only for adults to talk about. It's a thing for adults.
That's nice. Yeah. So thank you so much, Claire and Barakai, for being a part of this conversation and making it easy for me to moderate. I don't know. I would like to have you guys word, you know, let's assume you are in a community right now doing what you know how to do best. What would be your last word while leaving the community? Let's have Burakai first.
Okay, what I would probably close on to say, look for information, make use of existing systems that are there, probably the internet, volunteer. You can start with your local clubs, your local organizations, take your time, learn, be involved. Parents who are listening, especially parents, have these talks with your children at home. Let you be the first source of information. Don't let them Google or Wikipedia it. Ensure that you have these conversations. Let also ensure, as us in the community, we're very supportive and involved as well.
Thank you. Let's have Claire.
Yeah, I would firstly tell the parents, let's all join the struggle to dismantle period taboos. But as we do that, parents, eradicate the fear of the first period in your girl child. It's very important. And then to our policymakers, because they are everywhere, I would tell them, as condoms are free, let menstrual products be free as well, because period poverty is very disheartening. And then to our girls, I'll tell them periods are tough because they are tough, but we as women, we are really tougher. And so we should embrace them with a smile, with confidence, and with dignity. Let's all dignify periods. And schools, please normalize talking about sexual reproductive health.
Thank you so much, Claire. Thank you, Baraka. It's been an amazing conversation. And I'm going to be leaving everyone with this short word. As girls, as boys, let us be free to have conversations that we do not understand so that we can get clear understanding and we don't have a misinformation about them. Also, for parents, ensure that you maintain a close relationship with your children. As guardian, ensure you maintain a close relationship with the person that is staying with you, because let them be so comfortable that whenever they are troubled, you're the one they run to immediately, So thank you so much, guys. Always remember that when girls rise, we all rise. Have a good afternoon.
What an inspiring group of women. Balik, you are such a great moderator. Thank you, Tadbash and Claire. We are all amazing and we have learned several things from you. Next up, we have a girl talk with Sahara Parks.
Thank you for the introduction. My name is Sarah Park and I am a rising senior at Bergen Tech High School in New Jersey. My Girl Up Club name is Girl Up Bergen Tech, and my girl talk will be on advocating for menstrual education. I am a menstruator. Like millions of girls, women, and those who do not identify as female, I get my period every month. I use pads, menstrual cups, and often get period cramps. And although menstruation is a biological and natural process, it's treated like a big secret, especially in schools where young people may first encounter the topic of periods. Now, I don't remember if anyone ever directly told me that I should hide the fact that I'm on my period, but I knew that periods were seen as shameful, as I heard embarrassed laughter when our health teacher first brought up the topic of periods. I knew that periods were to be hidden, as I unconsciously slid up my pad up my sleeve before walking to the school bathroom. What I didn't know was what the very biological process affecting my body every month was. I didn't know that the various products I could use, like tampons and reusable pads and menstrual cups, were available to me. I didn't know that I could get health conditions like toxic shock syndrome from leaving in a tampon for too long, or that very painful periods could be a symptom of endometriosis. I didn't know that some menstruators lack the access to period products because they are seen as luxuries, hence contributing to the real societal issue of period poverty. Most of all, I didn't know that having my period is not something I should be ashamed of. Unfortunately, these experiences are shared by many of my peers, and I know that around the world, this lack of period education persists. Because of this constant shame and secrecy, young people are barred from receiving proper menstrual education. We are all kept from learning about our own bodies, about each other's bodies, and about this very process that should be seen as normal. And because periods aren't talked about, many girls lack access to products that allow them to keep attending school and receive education. Many cannot afford period products and are forced to turn to using newspapers or old clothes instead of pads. Better period education is needed everywhere. Young girls deserve to understand and be taught that periods and their bodies are not shameful. They deserve to learn about mood swings and about the various period products out there so that they can learn to take care of their bodies and learn what works best for them. And these ideas should be clearly expressed to all students, menstruators and non-menstruators. After all, what students learn in school about periods builds a notion on how they can view their own bodies and teaches them to respect and care for each other. Better period education can create self-acceptance, better health, and increase confidence. As institutions that have great influence in shaping their pupils' lives, schools must provide proper menstrual education to all students, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. It's time this conversation be approached directly and unapologetically, without separation or shame. There are many out there who are not given the knowledge and opportunity to understand that periods are totally normal. Simply raising the conversation on menstruation may seem like a small gesture, but it's an act of great courage that raises awareness about this biological process that is so hidden. Just talking about periods with one person, whether it be a male friend or a younger sibling, can greatly change one's perspective. Opening the conversation through proper period education is the first step to eliminate period taboos and address issues like period poverty. No one should feel ashamed to have their period, and no one should be held back because of their period, ever. I am a menstruator, and I am not ashamed to be one. Thank you.
Everyone give it up for Sarah Park one more time. We need to raise more awareness on menstruation in our communities. Maron, what are some myths you heard about menstruation?
The one at the top of my head is that periods are seen like a personal issue. It's a myth that I heard in my surrounding, but even the United Nations declared that in 2014, that the menstrual hygiene is a public health issue. It's not a personal issue. And many people do not have access to proper hygiene resources and support they need for their periods. So please share with us some of the myths that you have using the chat box, and we'll bring it by next. For our second girl talk, we have Anita Dewaba from South Africa. I'm passing it to Anita.
I am Anita Dewaba, a young human rights activist from South Africa. Thank you to the MC for that beautiful introduction. I would also like to thank the organizers and Girl Up Africa for inviting me to speak at this event. Building upon the theme of the day, I have chosen to speak about a more political topic. When I was preparing for this talk, I was given the discretion to choose my own topic and what I wanted to speak about. As a person who is generally interested in a vast range of issues, I spent most of the week trying to find one suitable topic and being very cognizant of the very limited time I would have to present on that topic. Throughout my scramble for an appropriate topic, I was brainstorming and throwing ideas around. One thing in particular kept replaying at the back of my head, and that is the alarming statistics that recently came to light about South Africa's youth unemployment rate. In South Africa, our youth unemployment rate is standing at a disturbing 74.7%. This means that 7 in 10 young people between the ages of 15 and 24 are jobless. This issue, of course, has been exacerbated by the COVID-19 epidemic, but youth unemployment has been a critical issue in South Africa long before the pandemic. So I thought it would be a grave injustice for me, given such a big platform, not to speak about the dire situation facing our young people in South Africa, including myself and my peers. One of the core roots of unemployment rates in South Africa is the lack of good governance. I am certain that many of you are aware of the corruption and maladministration that plagues our country. This perhaps is not an issue just particular to South Africa, but is a challenge faced by many African governments. In South Africa, we have come to realize the extent of this corruption through the judiciary inquiry called the Zondo Commission, or the State Capture Inquiry, which is tasked with investigating corruption in the state. Many political analysts argue various solutions to corruption in Africa, and perhaps one of the leading resolutions is that we need more young people in positions of power. And this is absolutely true, but it should not just end there. Youthfulness should not be the only qualifying factor for positions of power. As a young leader myself, I have met many other young people within the political spaces whose only intention is self-enrichment and power. We should therefore be very careful and expansive when proposing this solution for corruption. I believe that it is important to emphasize the fact that Africa needs young leaders who are grounded in activism, humanitarianism, and humanistic values. Otherwise, we'll be stuck in the very same vicious cycle we are trying to escape. We need to merge politics and activism. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. We truly appreciated everything about your Girl Talk. We need to hold our leaders accountable to empower youth. Youth unemployment and corruption has crippled most African countries and is the cause of continued poverty.
I totally agree, Rennie. We have a few myths in the chat. The first is that the period is counted like a dirty blood, but which is not. It's a very different form blood that moves continuously through the veins. And in fact, it's less concentrated blood. It has fewer blood cells than the ordinary blood. And the second one says that we should not have a bath during our periods, but I don't think it's right, since it's a time that we have to be more hygienic. That I have this for now.
Thank you, Maron. We are having so much fun, but unfortunately, time is knocking on our virtual doors. I hope you enjoyed today's lineup as much as we did.
Oh yes, we really had a wonderful time, and make sure you do join us for more fun and more engagement on the Global Summit. Register at girlup.org/summit. And if you have not yet registered, and see you at the Global Summit.